Hey everybody, it's this week's Say Report. This is your host, Siegen Sarwick, along with my host companion, Devon Decker. Hey
Are we
man,
talking in the third person all episode? Because I
all
can do
episodes.
that.
Siegen
I
will
just,
definitely do that.
yeah, Devon
Siegen won't forget
agrees.
it all.
We're definitely talking in the third person for the first minute. I'm Devon Decker. Or Devon Decker is Devon Decker.
See, already. It falls apart.
Everything falls apart. And then I get to try to put it back together. Then it falls apart. Remember that band? Do you remember Dog's Eye View?
Everything that just happened made me really sad.
Oh, why?
Oh man. So what's going on, Dev?
Not much. A lot of cool stuff. Actually, I have had the most productive day, and that's a weird thing to say, but I feel like I've just had the most productive Saturday in a long time.
Good for you.
And
man.
I say that as a person who went to bed at 2 a.m. and woke up at noon, and I still feel like I accomplished a bunch.
Hey man, I would kill for 10 hours of sleep nowadays. I'm in that old man phase where I feel like I only sleep for 4 hours a day.
I like to get a solid 6. That's what I aim for. But last night was crazy. It just got away from me. I didn't expect to go to bed. I mean, let's be honest. I got home at 2. I probably didn't go to sleep till 3 because I watched. Do you remember Eyes Maze? Like EYEZMAZE?
No.
Okay, so in the heyday of the internet, we're doing a show. We're a show about everything, but I'm excited to talk about this. There was, Flash games? Do you remember Flash games? Flash games, I'm sure, still exist, even though Flash is dead.
What is this flash gum that you talk about?
But yeah, so you had board.com and you had all those things, freegames.com, I think was another one. But
Yeah.
Eyes Maze was one that I found, and the reason that it came into my life was Tanti, I believe it was called. And Tanti was whack-a-mole played exclusively with your number pad.
Oh, that's actually pretty Flash games range from either ridiculously fun but also super simple to ridiculously complicated and also super fun. There's the two ends are decent. It's when you kind of fall in the middle where I'm not really that interested. So I'm glad to hear that this falls on possibly the complicated side for me. I'm not good with the number pad.
Right. Well, that's the cool thing is that it has a really good learning curve. That's the thing that I always liked about Tanti is it starts out simple enough where if they're in the one location, hit 1 and you'll hit them with your hammer. But then as you progress through the game, there are Tantis that require 2 hits to be killed. And if they escape, then you lose a life point and you only have 3 misses per round. And it's one of these things that I really enjoyed. It's the only reason I got a computer, my computer for college. I had to make sure that it had a number pad on the actual keyboard for my laptop.
You were one of those nerds that really thought Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing was an actual game, weren't you?
No, I hate Mavis Beacon. Mavis Beacon isn't even a real person? Thanks,
What?
Jeopardy!
What?
Yeah, even though he's taught them this skill, Mavis Beacon isn't a real person. What is typing? No one got it right on the episode of Jeopardy. It was the teachers' tournament. Because we're in that weird
did they not
rerun
get
thing.
that right?
And no one in my house got it right except for me either. So I know who Mavis Beacon is, but no, I don't think Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing as a game. What I did do, and I'll be honest with you, is we had to clear typing things in the computer class that I took in 9th grade.
Okay.
So
yeah.
weird to think that I took a computer class in 9th grade. And we just had to submit the certificates of completion. And I just did the number pad things. And in the first week, I submitted, the amount of certificates of completion that I needed to submit in order to get the A in the class. And then I learned about the wide world of emulation.
Nice.
With the remainder of that course. But, oddly, in the field that I chose to go into, being able to, master the number pad was perfect. Because that's what programming a light board is.
Yeah.
Is using the number pad.
Fair enough point. Yeah, man. Shit.
So it's just like this weird thing. But so Tanti was the game that got me to Eyes Maze. But then eventually they started releasing these games called Grow. I feel like we had to have played Grow together at some point.
Well, I mean, what's the point of them? I'm sure that if I have not played Grow, I have played a game just like it,
Okay,
because that's the other thing about Flash games.
Yeah, so Grow, it's a planet or it's a cube. There's Grow Cube and there's Grow Planet. And along the sides, it ranges from 8 to 12 items. And you drag and drop the item into the word Grow in the center of the planet. And the ideal thing is to drop those items in the proper order so that the planet maxes out to its best potential.
Of course, yeah. Played many a Flash game just like that, yes.
Right. So last night, I mean, I already hinted that I got in at 2 a.m. I went to my friend's house in Connecticut because they cooked a brisket for the first time. They had never done a brisket before. But Sunday, I was at a barbecue, and there was this guy just going and going and going about how to make the perfect brisket. And it inspired my friend Jake to do that. And then it turns out that guy was just talking out of his ass.
Oh, no. Did they listen to him? Why didn't they just do their own research?
I mean, but they did follow. I mean, let me tell you, it was restaurant quality brisket. And I might not have, fully understood that story as Jake's brother Justin told me. But it did feel like he's like, yeah, so Jake goes out, he buys this brisket, and then he contacts Bruce. He's like, I'm following your advice. And Bruce is like, yeah, I was just talking out of my ass. I was just having fun.
Oh, man. Don't fuck up that nice piece of meat that you just bought.
Well, they got it from Walmart. I'm going to say that. But
hey,
also, man. He said that he's like, imagine if it was high quality brisket. And I'm like, I feel like Walmart brisket's the brisket I'd want to eat because it's going to have that higher fat content. And if your brisket's going to live or die, it needs high fat content.
Fair.
But I was sent pictures of the brisket preparing process. So going back to Wednesday when here's a picture of it soaking in milk. I'm like,
oh man.
Oh, okay. And so then I got the brisket is done. You need to come by for a slice. So I went to Mystic Aquarium, had a picnic yesterday, an employee picnic. So I went there and then I left that and I went to go eat brisket. And then through one thing or another, that big brisket energy, we got into a conversation about Rockos Modern Life, and none of them had seen the Static Cling special. So I got to watch that a second time with them. And then we were talking about changes in the world, and somehow I established the sovereign nation of Devdekistan.
I'm surprised that hadn't happened before.
I was very surprised that that had never somehow come out of my mouth before. And I'm like, oh, now I need a flag. And we went right to the computer, and Justin designed a flag for Devdekistan. And I felt like a 9-year-old. And that's because when I was 9 years old, I had a PC in the basement, and on it we had Print Shop, I believe it was called. That was the name of the program. So we would design ridiculous stuff using the clip art and stuff in Print Shop, and that's a thing we would do when we had slumber parties. So it just really felt like I'm 9 years old again, having a slumber party.
I had a book of CD-ROMs that came with our computer, and in it was, first and foremost, Mavis Beacon teaches typing. Secondly, was Crayola Print Shop. So it was Crayola. Basically, it was color by numbers. But what was weird was that as you colored stuff in, it was also 3D. Not it was a 3D world or VR or anything weird like that, but it would make the thing, it would shade it properly so that it looked like it had a 3D look to it with the crayons. But then the other thing it had in it was the Men in Black game, and I could never get past the first level of the Men in Black game.
Well, yeah, that's because DOS games, no offense, DOS games, you basic. You're not
you had
good.
You had to disarm a bomb, and I could never figure out how to fucking disarm the bomb.
Well, you know why you probably couldn't figure out how to disarm that bomb? Because that was more than likely copy protection. And I bet you didn't have the manual. I bet it was turn to page 2 and type in the first letter of the 5th line of text.
Nice.
And because that was the problem with me, is that almost everything I had on that PC was given to my friend Brian's father. Gave me a disc with all these games. and I could get to a point in every one of those games, but then it would be like, go to the manual. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what? Like, I never finished Prince of Persia because level 2 of Prince of Persia was copy protection. But yeah, so we felt like that. But then while we were doing that whole thing, like while we were making the Devdekistan flag, we, Justin's younger brother Dylan put on WWE, like, make a character matches. I'm just going to walk through the night.
Nice.
Featuring Cowman and and Professor Sad, who was basically Dr. Manhattan if he were sad. And we watched that for like, we were getting into it too. So not only did I feel like a 9-year-old because we were using like Photoshop to make the Devdekistanian flag, but then we were watching like bad wrestling. And then
was there something bad in that brisket that you ate?
I don't know. There were 2 types of. It was delicious, restaurant quality brisket. I'm not kidding when I say that. But then the finale of that was, oh, if you like this, you'll probably like the Japan World Cup. Are you familiar with Japan World Cup, Seijin?
Like the Japanese wrestling thing where dudes will dress up as like fucking Link and shit?
No. Japan World Cup is I guess it's a computer game, video game. I'm not sure what it actually is. It's horse racing.
Oh, yes. Fuck, yes. Yeah,
and we watched the entire Japan World Cup too.
Isn't there like a co-op aspect to it? The Japanese wrestling one though, you've got to get into because it'll be wrestling, but dudes will show up as like copyrighted characters, and I don't know what, like nobody stops that shit. Like I have watched Link fight Godzilla, like it's crazy.
Well, everyone knows the Japanese are not known for their litigious nature. That was fun to say. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so that was the night was that. But then in the suggested videos for we're all bringing it back together for Japan World Cup 3 was Grow, and I'm like, I need you to somehow send me. And it wasn't Grow, it was Grow RPG. And that one you need to build the world, and then after the world is done, the adventurer needs to go and defeat the evil demon at the top of it. So I'm like, I need to watch that again, because I remember playing that in college, and I want to see this Japanese guy, like, get excited as he plays this game.
Dance for me.
So it was, so I got home at 2, and then I spent 20 minutes watching that.
Man, that's fucking wild.
It was a good night. And then I woke up and had a productive day, but I've been talking for the last 13 minutes, as is the Devdekistanian tradition. It's all 13s. So now, what have you been up to?
Well, it's weird you mentioned the internet video hole of old video games, because I fell down a really weird one. Dev, what do you know about Roblox?
Oh, Roblox. I'm familiar with it. I've never played it.
Well, that's because there's not like a Roblox game to play. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's gotten buried since, but apparently, so like the big thing about Roblox is that you can create your own games in it, and that's what people do with it now. So fuck me, I have no idea if there is like a Roblox game proper, but I know for a fact that there's a Roblox Matrix game where you dodge bullets, or there's a Roblox Tower Defense where you fucking build little units, or there's like Roblox Kart Racing where you can go around. I found Roblox Resident Evil. That was pretty awesome. It's just like, it's crazy what people will do in this world and spend their time doing. And Flash games are a perfect example of that. Like what people are going to waste their talents on to the point where like, it's amazing. It's amazing what people can do. And like, I have no idea where or why they care enough to do these things. The other thing that I was looking at was IO games. How many like IO games have you like played in your life?
I don't even know. That means nothing to me, unfortunately.
Yeah. So like .io is a programming like toolkit essentially, and then people will make games out of it. The most famous one I think is Slither or Snake or whatever iteration of it, where you play as a tiny snake and then you eat things and you become a bigger and bigger snake, and the bigger you get and the more you can eat other snakes and all this stuff.
And you can't Tron into yourself.
Right, exactly. You can't run into yourself, and if you do, you die, that sort of thing. And so it's it's a really popular game. People will build a whole bunch of silly shit online for it. So just go and look for .io games like later and amuse yourself for hours. But that's the whole thing, is that they're so simple and that they become addictive. And the next thing you know, you've spent 3 hours playing them, right? And it's this weird thing that like good Flash games and IO games and even like Roblox was starting to do for me, of like, it doesn't have to be complex, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be engaging, you know? And it's so wild to me that shit's like persists to the point where like you're thinking about it 10 years later, like it sticks in the back of your head. Meanwhile, like I was thinking, like I ran into a fucking Bubsy game the other day. Do you remember fucking Bubsy?
Yes, I have terrible, haunting memories of
Well, that's
Bubsy.
that's just it. Is like, if I hadn't run into this new Bubsy game that apparently had come out sometime in the last 3 months, which fuck me, that happened in this world.
That's the second one to come out too. Like it's
That's what? That's
yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I would have had no idea, because those games were so terrible that they're just gone from my mind, and I just have no connection to them. But we used to rent that fucking game all the time. My brother and I would walk over to RX Place. It was this pharmacy just around the corner from us that I think now has been turned into like a Goodwill or something, but it does not exist anymore. And they had a little section where you could rent videos and video games, and we would rent Bubsy, Alfred Chicken, and Tiny Toon Adventures from that place all the time. Tiny Toon Adventures is a baller game.
Which
But,
Tiny Toon Adventures is? I have to ask that, and I hate that.
Buster Bust Loose.
Okay, I finally
Not
finished
the
that
sports
game
one.
once.
Buster Bust Loose is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The sports one was weird because like there was a lot of multiplayer stuff in it, and like my brother and I were not great at playing stuff together. We could watch each other, no problem, but like if it ever came to playing a game side by side, it never went well.
That's a shame. I'd really like to see you guys do Goof Troop now. As much as I want to do Goof Troop with you, and it still hurts that we haven't, that sounds like it'd be fun too.
Mm.
Siegen reluctantly disagreed.
Yeah. But no, man. So like, yeah. So I've just been thinking a lot about like the way that this kind of shit like can get in your brain and really kind of like affect you. And it's not. It doesn't have $3 million behind it. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to me that the video game industry has become this thing nowadays, and it's gotten better in the last like decade. We've dialed back, and indie games were more popular, but now we're hitting like that indie game bubble. I feel like where like now even indie games are getting way too much money behind them. It's the same thing that happened with movies, right? Like an independent movie nowadays is bullshit because it's not independent. It's made by Fox Searchlight, which means it's backed by Fox 20th Century Fox, which means it has a $20 million backing, which is not an independent film, right?
Right, well, okay. So all I could think of right now, talking about Flash, is Homestar Runner, and I think of it is probably my favorite Strong Bite email. And I say that because I used to watch it like every weekend. Like it's how I set off my weekend. And it's film, like independent film is what it's called. I believe it's number 203, if memory serves. It's number 203. And he's like, the email is, does Strong Baddie ever have an independent film festival? And rather than do what is expected, which is have everyone make a movie, he talks about the difference between independent films and indie films. And Strong Bad hopes that the war that they're engaged in, and this is back in, I'm going to say like 2007, like if I had to like pick a year, we were definitely still in college.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we would have been in college at the time.
And because I watched it on an iMac, and it's when he had the Compay, so it felt like very weird. Like, oh man, it's not an old computer for Strong Bad anymore. And he's like, I hopefully hope that this war ends in the destruction of both sides. But that war ended with the victory of indie films.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember the last time I saw a true independent film.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm saying this on the cusp of one of my favorite movies from Sundance last year actually getting a release at the end of this month, or it might be early September. But Before You Know It, which was one of the two movies that I saw last year, the really fun like family dramedy that I saw, and it felt at the time like a truly kind of independent film. But now seeing it with like a trailer that has come out and the fact that it's getting a full release, it's weird because it's kind of losing that edge for me. Not that I'm liking it any less. Like I still love the movie, but it's weird my feelings about where it stood in terms of like an artistic piece. Because like I talked about this back then, so I won't go forever about it. But like getting to go to that movie and getting to meet the filmmakers and getting to see them talk about what it was like to get to make that movie and how important it was to them, because it is kind of her story, their story. It's it was huge, right? And it was this big thing for me that I got to see that kind of happen. And then even getting to see Kevin Smith a couple of months later talking about how important Sundance was to him with Clerks and like his experience in opening up that movie there and like truly independent film being made there. And it's weird because they got swallowed up. They got usurped. They got brought into the indie market. Yeah, the independent film can't survive because if it does, the indie market just takes it for itself, right?
Right. I mean, like Napoleon Dynamite, that movie felt like an independent film, like top to bottom. But
Hmm.
that was sort of the one that like launched the indie craze.
Okay.
And it was just really nuts to me when I think about that.
Yeah.
And then I think about the reason why I say that that has to happen in 2007 was because that's when Juno came out. And Juno was like the death of me enjoying indie films. Because I'm like, if that movie just felt so focus group tested to be like charming and offbeat. And that hurt a little bit.
Yeah, spoken like a
Especially,
guy that missed Garden State apparently like 2 years previously.
oh no,
But
I
yeah,
saw Garden State. I hate. You know what? Let's be completely honest about everything. Garden State is a movie that I fucking hated, and
yeah.
I have just like, if the neuralizer exists in this world, I used it to forget Garden State, and
But yeah,
apparently the
like
existence of the neuralizer.
but like you want to talk about the movie that really kind of blew the lid off of that whole thing. It was Zach Braff getting the money he could to make Garden State and like a truly independently made film with a budget, which is the definition of indie. Like they basically he had the script written himself. I will never take that away from him. Like the way that he directs that film, though, like what the things that he puts into that film that are clearly himself and the freedom he was given to make that movie cannot be ignored. But what also cannot be ignored is the fact that that movie was given basically carte blanche to do whatever the fuck it wanted. There was never a constraint of budget or time like there is with independent cinema.
That is super true. That I guess, but that's not why I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I didn't find it very interesting.
Well, that's a whole other conversation about whether or not you love it. But in the terms of the indie versus independent market, like there's a reason Garden State is the thing that people point to as the death of indie film. And I mean, and I say death, but I mean that without any of the negative connotation. Things must die before new things can be born. Like we need the death of something in order for the rest to grow. Like like that needed to happen because I feel like there is things that have come out. We wouldn't have one of my favorite movies of all time, Little Miss Sunshine, if it was not for what happened with Garden State and what ended up becoming of independent cinema.
That's
Like
a
we
movie
would
I've still never seen. I hate to cut you off, but I will admit that I've yet to see that movie.
That's just a shame. Like that's just a shame.
I
Like
say that, and I think of the people who are in it. I love everyone in that movie.
there
Like,
isn't
I
a single
love
bad
Greg
actor.
Kinnear so much.
Yep. Greg Kinnear. I mean, it's Steve Carell doing something completely different. It's Paul Dano like introducing himself to the world. It's literally Abigail Breslin introducing herself to the world.
Yeah,
And who plays the mom? Oh my
Toni
God,
Collette.
Toni Collette playing the mom is just phenomenal. Uh, Man,
Alan Arkin too, right?
Alan Arkin as the grandfather. Jeez, man, yeah.
And I've never seen it. I know so much about it. Well, I know it's cast, and I know the final scene because I worked at Hollywood Video, and someone wanted their money back because of the final scene. Spoilers, kinda. They called it child pornography, and I had to refund someone the rental of Little Miss Sunshine.
That is so against the point of that
I
moment.
know.
That is such a misread on that moment. Oh my God.
Mike
Anyway.
Policare was working with me when it happened. And he's like, I guess I could see how someone could see that, but I didn't ever think I would hear those words working at Hollywood Video. And then you just gave him the refund, Devon. And I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? It's $4.
Fucking Hollywood Video.
Like,
They're going down the tubes anyway.
Oh God, those were good times too. But yeah, that's one I definitely need to see. Like for a long time, I never saw Bend It Like Beckham, and then like I had an empty night, like no one else was around, and I'm like, this is how I have to watch Bend It Like Beckham, because I can't watch Little Miss Sunshine with someone who's ever seen it, because they will be like, oh, you'll have that buzz in the room. You know
Yeah.
the buzz I'm talking about.
No, for sure. I get it. There's a difference between watching a movie for the first time with somebody is a special thing, for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, even at work today, we were watching District 9, which is like again phenomenal, like
God,
right.
so good.
But that movie could not exist without independent cinema or indie cinema, which without it being in this world where a dude can come on the board and be like, yeah, I've never really done this before. Can I have 40 million? Yeah, and somebody being like, sure, this is a good enough idea for that. Like here you go.
Well, I mean, a lot of those were like independent cinema became shorts. So you do like a proof of concept short
Yeah.
film, and then they'd be like, well, based on this 2 minutes, here's $40 million.
Which is why I believe the greatest indie film of all time is Pixels.
I can't disagree with that statement.
It is so purely that where like the dude was like, I made a 10-minute intermittent video that became fucking huge, and somebody was like, here's a bunch of money, and Adam Sandler was like, I'll bring all my friends, and he's just like, okay, make my movie, and then it just like tanks, and everybody's just like, hey, at least you got a shot, and I don't think that dude's made a movie since he made Pixels, right? Whatever artist that was.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing. I love Pixels. I know
That movie-
nothing about it.
that
I know
movie's so
everything
weird.
about the script of it. I know that I have a real like. There's one thing that right now my skin is crawling as I talk about Pixels.
Hubert, is it Hubert?
Oh no, it's related to Kubert kinda. It's Josh Gad singing "Everybody Wants to Rule the World."
Okay, I
Because-
thought you were talking about Josh Gad fucking Hubert.
No. I mean, yes. To be fair, Kubert has at that time metamorphosized into Lisa. I can't think of her name. Lethal Lisa, maybe.
Lethal Lisa, I think is what it is. I don't know. We watch it without the volume on at work, so I can't tell you. Oh man.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, and I also have problems with Pixels in like cheat code. First of all, arcade games generally don't have cheat codes,
Yeah.
but also, even if they did, why the fuck would those cheat codes transfer to the real world?
Well, because they're aliens.
Nope.
And
Nope.
they're doing the thing.
Lies. All lies. Actually, fuck you, Sejan, because now I have a reason why. Because the Fire Blaster, Peter Dinklage, he is the person that is on the videos when the aliens learn what Pac-Man is. It has to be his game of Pac-Man that they watch. So if he cheated in order to do that, and by all accounts, he must have, they would think it's part of the game. So maybe by that, they would allow him specifically to gain super speed, but the super speed would be for Pac-Man, not for the ghosts.
Pac-Man eats that dude, and it's so good.
He eats his arm. He eats his hand. That's such a... Kill him!
Stupid movie. Stupid.
It's stupid, but it's sort of fun. But yeah,
So yeah, but like that's the thing is video games needs to have this moment where indie gaming becomes too big for its britches and the bubble has to burst, and that's when we're going to see some more greats come out again, because as it is right now, we're not going to get another Super Meat Boy, we're not going to get another Gone Home, we're not going to get another Braid for, I'm guessing, like 5 years.
You mean that in specifically like landmark achievement in gaming, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like walls being like busted down, like this, like redefining what the market is. We're not going to get that for another 5 years at this point.
I'm excited to check my knowledge to be like, well, Super Meat Boy forever someday, and I'm like, that's not what he means though, Devon.
Oh no, and even that's not going to be a thing, because it's Super Meat Boy meets like 5 other games, so it's not really that original. As much as I'm looking forward to it, it's not going to be the thing that redefines what video games are, like Super Meat Boy did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also, but one of the other things that I think is stopping that progress is the ability to fix a game after the fact. Like, I feel like No Man's Sky could have been a land breaking thing, right? If they had, delivered on any of their promises.
Yeah, for sure. Well, a better example is look at something like Jonathan Blow's The Witness, which was being touted as that possible thing and was still successful and still like made a mark, but clearly did not make the mark that Braid did for him when he first put Braid
Right.
out, right? So like you're talking about like No Man's Sky. Well, No Man's Sky fell on its face in a lot of ways, so really it's kind of hard to look at that and point to anything that's worth like arguing about in that game.
But I had more to say on it. Like you stopped me, and you're not wrong. Like, The Witness is good for like out of the box, but then 2 years later, because they still had the money to work on it, No Man's Sky fell in line with sort of what those sold, the bill of goods that they were sold, because of the ability to patch.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's weird, is rather than look at the failure the way that we look at the failure of something like Garden State and then try to build past it, we've given, like, video games are in this unique place where if you still have money left over, you can work and you can fix it. Mm-hmm. You can Blade Runner the shit out of your video game. Because, like, Blade Runner's really the only movie that did that. I can't think of another movie that, like, people didn't like the first time, so they kept trying to change it to make it
Watchmen,
so people liked it. That's not a bad example either.
They're trying to do it with Justice League, but it's not going to happen, guys. It's the Snyder Cut, first of all, doesn't exist. So
I blame Superman 2 for the belief in a Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Because everybody said that the Donner Cut existed for so long, and then once DVD came along, they're like, fine, we'll release it. We don't give a shit. And it's like, no, because now people think that they all exist.
Well, and the Donner Cut is actually a better movie.
That's not the point. The point is...
But that's the bigger sin, I think, because that's exactly why people want to see a Snyder Cut of Justice League, is because if they can point to the Donner Cut and say, see, and it was better... Or, like anything that fucking Orson Welles ever did in the studio chopped up, they can always be like, Wells's vision was better. Like there's always that sensibility. And the sucky thing is that there are one or two examples they can point to as like worth fighting that fight. Justice League isn't one of them, guys.
No, I don't. But I think the bigger issue from the Donner Cut, and the reason why I place blame on it, not just because, oh my God, this is why wasn't this Superman 2? This is awesome. It's also the fact that for so long, they said, no, there is no Donner Cut of this movie.
Yeah.
There's no Donner Cut of this movie. Why would you think there's a Donner Cut of this movie? And then they're like, let's release the Donner Cut of this movie after vehemently denying it. So despite the fact that, like, Warner Brothers has a signed affidavit saying, there is no Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, please move on, people are like, now there is. Soon as we get a new format that they can release it on.
What people are not thinking about is there literally cannot be. He had to leave the filming of that movie because of what happened to him and his family. And, like, it's not pretty, and it's not something that I ever want to blame the dude for. Like, I get why he had to walk away from that movie when shit, like, goes real bad like it did for them. But, like, timeline-wise, literally there cannot be a Snyder Cut of that movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because everything was not together. I can't imagine that he's like, oh, now that I got all this footage, some that I didn't have anything to do with, I'm going to still make my masterpiece.
Yeah.
Though, of course, you know what? Maybe the Snyder Cut of Justice League is 80 minutes long.
First of all, I doubt that. Secondly,
because it's everything that he was responsible for creating cut together to tell a story.
I didn't want Steppenwolf to be in this movie. I just wanted Batman and Superman to just fight some more. That's all it is.
I really wanted them to make out at the end too. So I got them both in my house. That's why the Batcave is now my living room.
Mm-hmm.
And look at them go. Also, I have to use action figure for Superman because Henry Cavill was busy. Ben Affleck, he's like, yeah, I'm on board. Come on, I'll be there.
Also, I decided to reuse Richard Cheese's Down with the Sickness again because you all seemed to love it that first time.
Oh, we're bastards. We're bastards.
Oh man. I
Uh,
just I am excited to see what happens with gaming in the next few years. Looking back on what on the stupidness that I've done this last week, because of the idea that looking back to like be influenced like is something that ends up happening all the time in these waves, and it's about time. We're due for that. Like, we saw it 10 years ago when everybody was like doing retro art style. Now I think we're going to start doing a lot more like retro concepts, and that's what I'm excited about.
yeah, I mean, as long as it's not collectathons. I get it. I understand the appeal, but there's so many other retro like mechanics that I'd love to see come back. You know
Yeah,
what I'd be
and
all right with, honestly, is linearity returning to games. Like just because a game's linear doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I am stupid excited for the Ghostbusters remake,
yeah.
and that game is linear as shit. And like that was the complaint. They were like, "Why is it linear?" And I'm like, "Well, because they had a story that they wanted to tell."
Yeah,
So
not every game needs to be a 60-hour open world masterpiece. Like that's not because if every game is that, then no game is good at it. You know what I mean?
but
Like,
but there's also the fact that an open world, like look at something like Rage, where it's just no, this is just extra time getting from A to B.
yeah, Range
That's
isn't really an open world. It's more like a hub with linear levels surrounding it. But yes,
well no, I'm more like Rage too. But I guess the other one, the not the Last of Us, Motorcycle Last of Us.
yeah, Motorcycle Last of Us is a very good example of that. I mean, even Borderlands suffers from that, especially some of the earlier stuff in the game when you're not really sure like how to play that style of game yet. So there's like a good like 20 to 30 hours of Borderlands where you're just like, there's a lot of desert and I don't have a car yet. There's a lot of desert and I don't have a car yet.
Yeah, I mean I think that's why Borderlands 2 hit as well as it did, because in the first 4 minutes you
Mhm.
like see so many different things, where in the
Yeah.
first game it's all deserts.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's mountains in the desert.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Like, but I would love to see something like linear storytelling really coming back. I mean, you look at some things recently that have kind of hit on some of this stuff. Like Messenger does really good at a lot of that sort of stuff. But even that, it's not a point A to point B after a
Well,
while.
and I think that's the thing is like I love The Messenger. It is a game that I absolutely love, and I have seen so many conversations regarding The Messenger about this game would have been perfect if it ended before it felt it had to become a Metroidvania.
Hmm.
And it's like that's weird because I kind of dig that that happened, but then I think that's how I was sold The Messenger, in that it was a Metroidvania Ninja Gaiden, and that's not what it is for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
half of the game. Like you play through 8 distinct levels before it becomes the thing that they marketed it as.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
and that's part of that is because it's fucking tough to market that game, plain and simple. Like part of it is just I did not envy the dudes that had to sell that game to people.
yeah,
Um,
I you're not wrong at all when you
yeah.
say that. Cuz even I like have trouble, like I want everyone to play that game. Especially like having replayed it this year. I'm like, this game's a masterpiece. This game is excellent.
Hmm.
But I don't know how to tell someone, like I don't want to harp on the Metroidvania stuff because even that is weirdly linear, and I don't know. I don't know how to, like it's how I know like one friend who played it for that reason. But otherwise I'm like, "Do you like Ninja Gaiden?" And most people say no, and I'm like, "So we'll move on from here."
Yeah, yeah.
How was the
Uh,
last Assassin's Creed game?
oh God,
Oh, sweaty head.
not enough hay bales. So what else do you do this week, man?
What else I did this week? I watched a lot. A lot. I can't think of the thing that I watched. I was so happy about it. I watched Down Periscope. Oh, I watched Hard Rain again. That's the other one.
Hard Rain, awesome, great, fantastic. You don't get to skip over down
Oh no,
Periscope
I was
after
gonna
doing
get
a
back
watch
to
of
Down
Kramer.
Periscope. Don't get
Of
me
Kramer,
wrong.
not Kramer.
Fraser
Why do I always want
Crane.
to do that? I always want to call him
You
Kramer.
do. Fraser
Kelsey,
Kramer. It's great.
Kelsey Kramer.
Kelsey Grammer. I hope they have it in turquoise.
Fuck. with me. Fucking down Periscope though. What is
Such
going
a
on?
good movie. So this all stemmed from I wanted to watch Dragnet. I'm like, Dragnet is the movie I want to watch right now. And I logged into Stars Online because if you have Stars on your cable plan, you have semi-access to Stars Online streaming. And then I'm like, all right, well, let's look for it. And then Hard Rain came up, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch Hard Rain. It's been 2 years since I watched Hard Rain.
You do.
I got to watch Hard Rain. And I love it. I still love that movie. The turn in that movie is so good. Every time, it is so good.
Our offer still stands, Randy.
It always stands, Randy. Always. And then I'm like, all right, now let's get to Dragnet. And as I'm going down, I see Down Periscope. I'm like, I kind of got to watch Down Periscope, right? Down Periscope is the reason why I saw Pushing Tin. How's that for like, because I
like a double feature or like
I wanted Down Periscope, and I went to Walmart and they had it in a 2-pack with Pushing Tin. Because those two movies have some connection. They don't. They don't at all.
I'll tell you their connection. They had leftover copies of each in the warehouse. That was their connection.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I guess I'll buy this because whatever. And then I watched Pushing Tin and I'm like, Pushing Tin's a pretty legit movie too. But Down Periscope, it's so good. It's such a good movie.
There is a collection of movies that I do associate it with, and it's funny because it actually does not fit in this triplet that I'm about to name. But I always get Down Periscope slightly confused with McHales Navy and Sergeant Bilko.
That makes perfect sense, actually.
And it's like it's comedy wise it does, but the other two are actually like TV show like remake movies, right? Wasn't Sergeant? Or am I misreading? I know McHales
definitely
Navy
was.
But with Sergeant Bilko with Steve Martin, is that or is that not?
I think that's an original type of story. I might be putting my foot in my mouth on that, and you can check if you want to.
But the big thing for me is like I remember moments in each of them, and then I for some reason think that Kelsey Grammer, Steve Martin, and who's the one in McHale's Navy? It's Phil Hartman or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
like it's somebody.
Like Tom Arnold, maybe that's where my head's at. I've never seen McHale's Navy the movie. I've seen the show.
I mix scenes up from those movies and insert the actors into the other films all the time.
That's fine. No one's mad at you for that at all, except for I don't know. God, Down Periscope. I was so happy to watch Down Periscope again. Like, oh my god. Maybe the next Hackers for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Why? Okay, fine. Hey, man, if it's gonna get you off of Hackers, anything to break that habit, I'm down.
I've seen it 33 times this year, and we're in the 33rd week of the year. I'm doing something right. I love Hackers though. But then, also this week, I've entered the Florpus. I don't know if you've entered the Florpus.
No, not yet. I was considering it, and then I went with something else this weekend.
So I entered the Florpus, and I got Static Cling again with Rocko's Modern Life, as I led in the beginning of this. First of all, the Florpus, no spoilers at all. It was so friggin' good. I couldn't believe how good it was. Nice. Now, granted, I have had one conversation with the previously mentioned Michael Polycare, and he's like, I wish it was more. But then again, I watch the DVDs frequently, and I'm like, yeah, I watched the show when it was new, and that's where Zim stopped for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that, because that was sort of my issue with Rocko's Modern Life is, no, I'm a huge Rocko fan, and in a lot of ways, this felt like all that stuff you remember from Rocko, that's what we're going to highlight. And I even read an article that talked about that. And it's like,
well, I'm glad that you ended up enjoying Enter the Florpus, at least. Like,
oh my god, I want to watch it again. And it's a legit movie at an hour and 11 minutes, as opposed to the Rocko special at 45.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen now with Netflix and Nickelodeon, with them buying in so heavily on that stuff. Weirdly, not like Arnold though, right? Because didn't Arnold's go straight to TV?
Arnold's went right to Nickelodeon, yeah. 2 years ago, actually. Because I bought
2 years at this point.
Yeah. And then what's really weird is that Zim is on Hulu. Because like I'm
The
gonna go,
series is,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna go back and watch Invader Zim now after seeing Enter the Florpus, go through that whole series, and then rewatch Enter the Florpus and see how it affects it. And I'm excited to do that. I'm not going to lie.
Cool. All right, man. I
But
I
yeah,
am interested in that rewatch.
yeah. And I saw Good Boys in the theater. That movie was really layered. I thought it was just gonna be one joke, like super bad. No, it had super layers.
Yeah, I am still kind of reeling from that movie. I went and saw it on Friday night, just on a whim, and I, like I said, I'm still kind of reeling from seeing that film. I have not smiled as much at a movie in a long time. I think the last time that I legitimately smiled to the point where like my face hurt was Dinner for Schmucks. Did you ever see that
I
one?
love Dinner for
Paul,
Schmucks.
Paul Rudd and Steve Carell. It's a
And
remake
Zach
of a French farce.
Galifianakis. That
Oh,
like
the entire cast in
is
that movie is
so good.
phenomenal.
Oh,
Like
it's got Jermaine
Merchant,
Clement, right?
Jermaine Clement is in it. Yep, as the artist. Yes. Oh shit. Oh my God. Octavia Spencer as the woman that talks to the lobster at the dinner party.
Right.
Like, yeah. Like that movie's fucking legit. Um, so yeah, like I I went to go see Good Boys the other night, and I was sitting there, and I just giggling and laughing and just having such a good time, and like legitimately invested in characters. And the thing is like I'm willing to give a lot. Like when there's a child actor on screen, or if you're working with a dog, or like I know that shit's not easy, right? And so like I'm willing to forgive a lot, and I never felt there was a moment where I had to like suspend disbelief like at all. Like every kid they had in that movie was spot on and great in the moment. The way that they were playing off of adult actors and the way that they were being treated by adult actors never felt like this adult actor is just saying the lines that they've been given to a child. Who's guilty of that, and I love him for this. But Andy Daly is like he does a lot of really weird like children's television stuff. He's you should check out some horrible history stuff on Netflix or Hulu. I forget where that one shows up. And he is phenomenal, but he puts on a very showy act when he's acting with children. He shows up on like Nickelodeon shows and in
Mm-hmm.
the kids movies and stuff like that. And it's hard to not see him putting on his actor voice when he's working with children, right? Counter to that was fucking Will Forte in this movie in that opening scene
Oh my
playing the dad.
god. Okay, so like we're not gonna spoil that, but everything that I heard about Good Boys leading up to it from other people was I hope they didn't show all the funny stuff in the trailer. And then from moment one, it's like, no. We came to play.
Yeah.
We came to play. In fact, a lot of the stuff in the trailer, alternate jokes from what you're about to see in this movie.
That's true. I'd really only seen one trailer for it, and I was pretty much sold right away as I was like, there's no reason I'm not going to see that. So, like, I haven't really been paying too much attention to it, but we watched, something had it in front of it the other night, and I was just like, oh, yeah, like, that's joke's not, that's trailer trash. That didn't make it into the movie at all.
Oh, trailer trash. That's good. Is that a podcast already? If not, we just copyrighted it. Because, oh my God, that's a great idea for a podcast. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Oh man. But like also on top of everything, not only is it super sweet and genuine in a lot of places, but also really good at being timely without being like knocking you on your ass timely. Like all the jokes about consent are not in your face jokes. Like we're only talking about consent because it's funny, not because we believe it. Like I legitimately believe these kids understand the idea of consent and like are engaging in it. Like, like that sort of shit.
I mean, the best part about this movie is that it wasn't 90 minutes of Fortnite humor.
Hmm.
I'm going to just be honest with you.
Yeah.
There was that little bit of me that I'm like, if these kids play Fortnite, I don't know if I can enjoy this film. Like, if that's all they do.
But they
And-
also didn't not play Fortnite. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like
yeah, no.
they don't confirm or deny that, which I think is really smart.
Yes. I mean, they played their version of Magic the Gathering, which totally made me a kid again. And I'm just like, screw you, Good Boys. I knew this movie was going to make me a kid again, but it made me a kid again in so many things. I need to ask you a question. Semi-spoilers for Good Boys. How into the Rock of Ages, like, quadriatic storyline were you?
I mean, I wasn't into it because it was Rock of Ages, if that's what you mean. Like, I was more into it because I totally get where that kid was at and the idea of like wanting to do this thing that other people were making him feel wasn't cool. And so, like, School Musical is a really easy way to layer that on, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I was behind that. As far as the Rock of Ages aspect itself, it was worth it for the jokes. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was a totally great pull for the jokes. Why? Was there something about it that like threw you
It
off? Or
worked for me so well. The
yeah,
second he's like, Rock of Ages auditions 2 days, guys. Come on, sign up. I'm like, perfect. That is the perfect musical for this movie. All I want to see is that. And even Dale was like, oh my God, if he's not Stacey Jacks, this movie failed. If he doesn't get the role of Stacey Jacks, failure, good boys. I don't care how good you've been up to this point. And I hate Rock of Ages. Hi.
it's a bad musical. I look, yeah, like that's the thing is like I like Rock of Ages because I love jukebox musicals and any excuse to like play music and for me to get to see fucking it's what's his nuts in the movie, right? It's
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was trying to think, Pretty Boy there, Blue Eyes. Yeah, anytime I get to see Tom Cruise in a bad wig, like I'm all about that shit. So like I love it for that, but like I have no emotional attachment to it, so like I wasn't like super excited when they said it, and when they showed it, I lost my shit though. When
Right.
they finally reveal it, it was amazing.
Yeah, my emotional attachment to Rock of Ages is I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. I don't like it at all. And then like I was hanging out at a friend's house after the first time. They're like, we're gonna watch Rock of Ages, and I'm like, no, please God, no. But then I watched it with my friends, and I'm like, no, this movie is still awful. And then I needed to watch it for something. I don't remember the reason why. It was like, Devon, you need to watch Rock of Ages again. And that was the person I called. I'm like, I know you own this movie. You need to let me borrow it. And she just gave it to me. She's like, I don't need that back. I've watched it the one time. So now I own a copy of Rock of Ages, which I have seen 3 times, and I just have such hatred for, especially the movie version. Like, Tom Cruise is fun in it, but also it's just like, oh, you were unnecessary to be made into a movie.
Oh, so much about that. Yeah, that whole musical is unnecessary,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God. And then like, but also like, Julianne Hough is in it.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Brand is awesome, so I'm not mad about that. But, like, Malin Ackerman, whose name I could not think of to save my life after seeing Good Boys. And then I'm like, I hate this movie so much that I'm excited to see the Good Boys take on it. And as much as you lose your shit during that last scene, almost everything was grabbed from the movie. Like, the choreography was from the movie. Yeah. And I'm like, so this music teacher, he just saw the movie.
Like every terrible music director I've ever worked with.
Yeah, it was. I'm just like, I love this. It was.
Yeah, well, but what else was really good about it as a pull though is narratively, it's super important because it shows influence on these kids that like people don't think about. They're so busy blaming shit like Fortnite. I mean, like, this is the perfect time in history to be talking about this in this moment, as we sit here on the cusp of everybody blaming video games for 2 shootings in 1 weekend. Like, it is a perfect example of something that no parent would have even thought of. They let their kids go to auditions and go to rehearsals, and they didn't think about it until the night they were sitting in that seat watching it going, oh, I probably shouldn't have let my kid be involved in this, huh? Well, too late after 2 months of working on this fucking show. Like, no wonder.
That's my that's my other favorite thing, is that 1 month goes by in universe time, and I'm like, that's not enough for 12-year-olds to do a Rock of Ages musical. And it's like, but it doesn't matter because who gives a damn?
Yeah, but the idea of that being something that is teaching them this shit, like the misinformation that they have, and seeing where it is coming from was so key and so well structured and so well done.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Really. And it's also because, like, you see these weird things that they know, but then, like, they don't know that a sex doll is a sex doll.
Well, but what's good is that they introduce an idea of something like, oh, they're too young to know what that is, and then they prove it. Where, like, they know the word blowjob, but then they don't know what a blowjob actually is. Yes. He blowjobbed all those girls, didn't he? Yeah, sure he did, kid.
Yeah, that movie worked for me in a way that I was hoping it was going to work, and it blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
I felt about that movie, we talked about tempering expectations last week, but like Superbad was a movie I was stupid excited for, and then I'm not ashamed to say that it kind of fell flat for me. And whatever, it happens sometimes. I'm not mad about it. I've moved on from it, but I found myself with that same energy of excitement regarding Good Boys.
Yeah.
And for it to actually deliver on that excitement, like, first of all, it finally made me happy that I've seen Rock of Ages, which I didn't think that would ever happen. But then second, I'm like, I can kind of forgive how I felt after Superbad, because it was in there. It's just that Superbad, I mean, the big issue with Superbad is that it feels like two different movies slammed together. And Good Boys felt like one cohesive film.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that you're watching a much more structured, scripted film in Good Boys. I mean, at the end of the day, these are still, 9 and 10-year-old kids. I don't think that they were going to let them do a bunch of improv, Well,
I don't know, Jacob Tremblay. I mean, we're going to watch him win an Oscar when we're in our 50s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, have you seen Room?
No, I have not, admittedly.
Yeah, like, I was not surprised when I saw that Jacob Tremblay was attached to a movie like this. So that was also why I was so blown away by the people who played Thor and Lucas.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, it's not just Jacob Tremblay. It is 3 legitimately talented child actors.
But it's not just the 3 of them, man. I mean, the kid playing Soren was pretty fucking spot on as like the cool kid who doesn't ever end up losing that cool. Like he was just the cool kid the whole time. I think that's what I loved about it too, is that there's no real shithead in this movie. Well, there's one, and he gets his fucking comeuppance.
Atticus? Fuck you, Atticus.
No, not even Atticus. I'm talking about the boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, but that's... I thought we meant kid age.
No. I mean, like, I love a movie without a real, like, obvious villain. You know what I mean? Like one where it's just, like, the circumstances of a life have really just fucked everybody over. I am a huge fan of that kind of comedy. And, like, this is definitely falls into that, where, like, these guys, I mean, they really are good kids. Like, and I think that was another really good thing about it, is that it shows how they are legitimately just decent humans, even though they're children, which again is hard to do with kids because like you don't think about them as fully formed functioning units yet, but they are out in the world doing shit on their own every day. We kind of, I don't know, look past some of the shit that they do because they're kids.
Yeah
And
that was just so, I mean, Will Forte as his father was so good. Like the second scene with him was like, that felt so real. That felt like the realest father yelling at a child I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Go see Good Boys. I don't think we've ruined much of anything for it. Like, there are still things that oh God, it's so good. And it conveyed things so well in, like, so few words. Because you talk about the boyfriend, and it's like, that first scene with him, I knew everything about him that I needed to know.
I mean, the pool scene solidifies it, and he's only there for like 5 minutes. It's if even that. It's only like a 3-minute scene, and it solidifies everything you need to know about that character. Yeah. I mean, the same thing with Thor's mom and dad, like Retta and, oh man, what's his name playing the dad there?
Little Rel.
Rel. Yeah,
That's Lucas's parents, but it's Lucas. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you're right.
But those two are like their whole storyline, again, only in 2 or 3 scenes, but like perfectly conveys and gives you all the background you need on Lucas.
Yeah, they did a lot of showing and not telling, and I feel like that's a style of comedy that we've sort of moved away from, and it's I hope that with this year, with something like Booksmart and something like Good Boys, this is what the high school like coming of age comedy returns to. Like, it gave me hope for cinema going forward. That's what Good Boys did. And that happens like once, twice a year for me.
Yeah, I think after a couple of years of things starting to feel like they were getting a little stale in pop culture, I'm starting to get real excited about what the future's going to be. with Marvel coming to an end and that whole universe needing to basically reimagine itself, everything going on that we've been talking about with comedy and video games, like we're in a really interesting place right now for what culture is going to become in the 2020s.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Like it's gonna be. I hope it's a retake of the Roaring '20s. And
Hey, man.
like I might start throwing parties every night and put a green light at the end of my driveway. Or
Electro
no,
swing is back. Let's do it.
I'll be Jay Gatsby for the next year. I'm not a war hero, but I can fake it.
Anyway.
Hey, spoilers. Speaking of it, just to wrap it all up in a thing, the best Flash game, without question, is the NES Great Gatsby Flash game. You can go watch Say Report Jr., Say Report JR on YouTube. They played it for like an hour.
Wow, I am impressed.
They cleared it like 4 times.
All right.
And they just had so much fun doing it. That game, I'm a big fan of the Great Gatsby anyway. I have a copy signed by the author. It's Rory Scovel who signed it, but he wrote, I wrote this. And I can't not believe that Rory Scovel wrote The Great Gatsby now. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Thank you, Ted, too, for the joke I just made. But, so I love it, and then that game is just, it's such a good example of what a licensed video game was. It is the only game that's like aping a style that I'm sad has not somehow gotten a cart release on the NES. So yeah, so Flash games. That's where this started. That's where it ends. That's where it terminates.
I love it.
Anything else to add? Oh, I have another thing, and I feel like a real asshole about it before I say that. But do you have anything else to add before I say my last piece?
No, just wrapped up season 5 of S.H.I.E.L.D. in my rewatch, so now really got to dive into season 6 in what feels like must be I have to look at it as like a sequel. It's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 2, because man, season 5 just really brings everything together in such a beautiful way at the end.
As the person who just finished season 6, I'm jealous. I'm jealous you get to watch it. Because I remember watching the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was in London, of all places, and it had just like a worldwide premiere on September 27th. And I watched it with Will, and I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. And then it started to play again, like they did a rerun of it, and I'm like, yeah, we should probably watch it again. I would never have thought that 6 years later I'd be as excited as I am about that show. Yeah. And I'm super excited for season 7 after the cliffhanger they left 6 on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they doing a 13 episode or are they doing a full 20-something?
I believe it's only going to be a 13 episode.
Good. I feel like it should
was
be.
13
because,
episodes.
6 was 13. Yeah. I feel like that's a really good way for them to really kind of make sure that they can focus and just do it right.
And I think like we were all kind of like flabbergasted why they said we're renewing it for 2 more seasons. But that's why. We could have renewed it for 1 22-episode season, or we could do 2 13-episode seasons. What would you prefer?
Yeah. Yeah. Nerds unite, man. 2 13s, please.
Yes. Because that means that there's 4 more episodes, guys. Plus, I feel like if it were one big season, it would have been the same way that, like, Ghost Rider went into LMD. Or S.H.I.E.L.D. in Space went into S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, really, it's not just 2 stories, and we can talk more about this next week after I get a little bit dip my toe into 6 a little bit more. But it's always it became a 3-story arc. It's because it's Ghost Rider into LMDs into the framework, right. And then like this season season 5 was in space, which is really more of a prologue than anything else. In space, then Destroyer of Worlds, and then Alien Attack. Like it really is like a 3-story season. Yeah. What happens in this season is so well meshed that you don't really think about it that way. But if it were in comics, it really would have been a 3-arc story.
Yeah, it would have been 3. It would have been each, what you just said. I don't need to make it sound better. You nailed it. Kudos to Siege. So I'm very excited for that. But the last thing I'm going to add is I bought the Brett Hellquist artwork, Scary Stories, after saying that I was going to, and I read through them all today. And first of all, the art it's different, but it's not any better. Like, it's not kid friendly.
Yeah.
It's just, this guy did Lemony Snickets. We should put him on Scary Stories so that we can resell them. And it works. But after rereading them, I'm a little bit more disappointed with Scary Stories and how they implemented them. Because very, very obviously they had the books as a template, because a lot of the names are names like attached to the stories that happen, which is fun and cool. But then it's like, but also they would take like stories that happened near each other and mesh them together. And it's like, well, those are different stories. So like, you guys understand that, right?
Weird, but yeah, man. I mean, like, part of it is the structure of taking that anthology series and turning it into a single linear story,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm kind of excited to watch it again after rereading them, and also now knowing what the movie actually is. But rereading it, I'm like, I kind of wish that the attention you did to like name a character Ruth, and then what happens to her is what happens to the only Ruth that shows up over the 3 books. I wish that attention to detail had, like, permeated all of the Scary Story tie-in. But that's just me. And if you'd like to tell me why I'm wrong, you feel free to find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And if you want to hit me up and talk to me about indie game magic and whatnot, you can hit me at Siege vs. the World.
But until next time, let's throw it to the very own Lucas of our group of good boys. William, let's sell that $600 card, buddy. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.